Edition. Good afternoon. My name is Cozy Stone. Welcome to Cozy Up and Pay Attention, the parent edition. As I say every week, if you're looking at my face, then that means it's Tuesday, Pacific Standard Time, and it is 2 o'clock. I have another wonderful parent guest to you today. And before we bring him on, I'm going to ask you to inhale, please exhale, and we'll be right back.
Cozy Stone is a multi-talented comedian extraordinaire who has a real lust for life. She also combines humor and motivation, where she is known as a humorvational speaker. Her youthful ways and positive light make her a beacon for those of all ages. Cozy has lived a remarkable life that has paved the way for so many. She had the longest running open mic venue of 11 years at Tommy Rockers in Vegas, called Cozy's Comedy Corner, through which she introduced many up-and-coming comedians. Before going into comedy, she was one of the first female personal trainers and one of the top fitness trainers in the world. She has trained many greats such as Billie Jean King, Roberta Flack, Andrew Young, Ed Bradley, CCH Pounder, Al Pacino, and Earl Monroe. As a former competitive bodybuilder, she also owned a bodybuilding gym for women over 40 in Los Angeles for several years. She has worked in top positions for HBO, Playboy, and Tony Robbins. She also enjoys volunteer work, dedicating time to the New York Foundling Hospital and babies with AIDS. Cozy Stone has a message that shouldn't be missed.
Welcome back, and please bring into the studio my friend and my parent guest today, Mr. Lane K. Welcome, sir.
Oh, hello, Cozy.
Long time no see, huh?
Yes.
Before we get started, Lane, I start the program out with saying there is no such thing as a perfect parent. In spite of what's on the bookshelves, there really isn't a manual for creating the perfect child. This show is not at all about parent shaming. This show was created with the concept of showcasing parents who put the pedal to the metal, parents who realize I have brought a human being into this world and I'm going to do my best to make it a responsible adult for society. And that's what you're going to share with us today. That's what everyone who has been on here. And I'm hoping the audience has told others to watch just to get a clue. I just like to say to get a clue. Probably more young parents, but there may be some parents who have 7, 8, 9-year-olds, 12-year-olds who'll say, "Wow, I never considered that. I didn't stick to those principles." And you, of course, have 2 adult boys. What I'd like to do is to delve a little bit into your background and give the audience an idea of who you are and who you chose to be as a parent. So would you tell us, where were your parents born? What city?
My father was born in Los Angeles, and my mother was born in Des Moines, Iowa.
And they met where?
In Los Angeles.
Okay. And as far as you know, were you planned or not? Which is a question I've never asked, but what the hell?
As far as I know, I was planned.
Right. And that's not a question I want to ask that again. What I really want to know is so you were born in Los Angeles?
No, I was actually born in San Francisco.
Don't assume, Cozy. Ask the questions the way they're supposed to. How long did you live in San Francisco? From what age to what age?
Probably a very short period of time, maybe a year.
Okay. So you stated in your bio that you've been married for 40 years.
Yes.
How old were you and Sue? Sue, correct? Your wife's name is Sue? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. He's stagnant. Oh, Dana, what's going on? My guest isn't moving. It's almost as if he went to sleep on us. Okay, you're back.
Had a glitch there.
Yes. Yeah. It looked like I asked you the question. You just went to sleep. Did you hear the question?
I did not hear the question.
All right, let's try it again. I believe your wife's name is Sue, correct?
Yes.
All right. How old were you, I guess, and Sue when you had your first child?
It was later in life. I had my first on my birthday when I turned 35.
Wow. Okay. Okay. I like that. There's a whole difference in parents who've been on here 30 and over as opposed to 15. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But here's the question. I would, and I'm not going to assume anything. You and your wife were married, yes?
Yes.
Okay. And you plan to have a family.
Right.
Okay. All right. So even with that, you met Sue, she saw you. I think I met your wife once. What was it about Sue that made you, of course, you married her, but you also married her under the premise of course, I'm going to have kids with this woman. What qualities did she possess that you knew she may be a good mother to your children?
Well, we were very young at the time. I was 19, she was 18, and
Oh,
she was only maybe 4 or 5 months removed from graduating from high school.
oh,
But we dated for 5.5 years. I knew that she was ready to have a family because she came from a large family. There were 5 kids in her family. So I knew that she was going to be a great mother, beautiful, intelligent, always kept me on my toes.
okay. And so again, planned parenting, got married. You looked at each other and said, "We're ready to make
Uh-oh.
this." So even when the doctor presented you with this, yes, you're pregnant. What kind of feelings went through you? Did you have? Because it's still new. Did you have fantasy, fear? Do you remember what that first feeling was like?
I think it has to be on your end, Cozy.
Oh, you can't hear me?
Oh, no, I can hear you now.
So you didn't hear that question either. And the
No.
question was, gosh, we got such great audio going on here. I mean, video. When you were told you were going to have a child, you guys are ready to have. Do you remember the feeling that went through your body? Was it fear? Was it fantasy? It's got to be a feeling, even when you want a child, when the doctor says you're going to have a kid. How did you feel?
It was elation because we had actually tried to have kids before that
Okay.
and it just didn't work out. And, I think God has a plan, and the plan was for us to have kids later in life. But we took every advantage. We traveled around the world. We did things that most young people would love to do. Typically, you wait till you're older, you're retired, you do all your traveling after the kids are gone. Our situation was a little bit more flipped.
Well, good. And that's generally the parents that have been on here did exactly that. They quote unquote lived their life before they gave their life to somebody else.
Right.
Right. Um, so what part of the country did Sue where was she raised?
Well, we were both raised, we went to rival high schools, we didn't know it, up in the Bay Area.
Okay. So here's the question. People get together, they make children, but they still come from different households. What were some of the either same or different rearings that you both had either in common or not in common?
180-degree difference between my upbringing and her upbringing. I was raised by a single mom
Okay.
who happened to be an alcoholic,
Okay.
not involved in my life or my sister's life. We basically were latchkey kids.
Okay.
When we came home from school, we had our chores, we had things to do. My mom and dad had divorced. She remarried and then remarried again. My father remarried. My wife's upbringing was Aussie and Harry.
Okay.
And that's also what attracted me to Sue, is that it's a family life that I never had.
Okay. So even with that said and done, again, you're 35, you're already an attorney, I would think by now, right?
Yes.
You've traveled. So you get together and you look at each other and you say, I don't want our children to blah, blah, blah. I do want our children to blah, blah, blah. Can you give me 2 or 3 examples of that?
Sure. Uh, Obviously, um, we wanted to give our boys a better life than I certainly had. And we had role models with Sue's parents. You always want to try to give them more, but we were careful not to give them too much because we know that in the area that we live here in Las Vegas, we have a lot of our friends who are very well off and they give their kids
Everything.
too much latitude, too much rope, too many nice things. And I'll give you one example. These days, kids at a very early age get a phone. We did give our oldest one a phone. He was diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic, so we wanted to make sure that he could contact us and likewise. And then our youngest, he got a phone when he turned 13, and he was probably the only middle schooler that was the last one to get a cell phone. So just a couple of differences.
Okay. So I don't know if this applies, and you'll tell me if it doesn't apply. So what? I like to ask parents, my guest, when we're being raised, is there one thing or 2 things that you can remember maybe your mom saying to you as a parent that you say to your kids, or Sue's parents that has said to your boys while she was raising them? And that's part of who we are, that sticks in our craw and we take with us out into the world.
Well, even though I could say I had a terrible upbringing, one of the things that was reinforced is that both my sister and I had to take care of ourselves. And it's that independence that I think actually made me a better parent, because it showed our boys that, hey, even though there's a father figure, the father figure has no problems with cooking and cleaning and doing the laundry. I had to do it. So that's what our boys saw. And my wife's upbringing was just totally opposite. It was more, the man has a certain job and the dad has a certain job.
Wow.
And she and her mom was a stay-at-home mom. And so more, what I would say in that day, more traditional.
Okay.
Whereas my wife worked for a Silicon-based company and did a lot of traveling. And so they were raised with 2 professional adults that had their work lives and their home lives.
Okay. All right. Let's get into the questions that you chose. The first question that you chose was, explain an unexpected challenge as a parent.
Well, I think probably the biggest challenge, and I mentioned it earlier, when my oldest son, who was born on my birthday, when he turned 8, he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. We didn't have anyone in our family that had type 1 diabetes. My wife and I knew nothing. And we got a quick education after he spent a week in ICU here in Las Vegas. And that was a tremendous challenge because your whole life has been turned upside down. And then the further challenge was that the oldest got really probably unwanted attention on him. And then the youngest one was not getting any attention. So those were 2 challenges that were unexpected. You always say when you have kids, boy, I just want them to be healthy.
Right.
And you never think that it's going to happen to you.
That's right.
But again, God had a plan for us. And fortunately, being parents a little later in stage and maybe a little more financially responsible, we were able to handle that challenge, but it was a huge challenge.
Right. And again, these questions are designed for those who are listening. Again, when you ask for a kid or have a kid, everyone hopes and prays that you have a healthy child, but we know that's not true.
No.
And so how you handle it from that point forward is so important, and it affects your life drastically.
Yeah.
So one of the things, as I have the show, and I always want to pretty much address a lot of these concerns to the younger parents, younger people, uh, when you're having what I call irresponsible sex, or these things have to be taken in consideration. You can't afford it. God forbid it's sick. You're not quite educated. You don't have the maturity. And all of these things factor in when you're not readily thinking of the ramifications of having a baby, right? Let's go to the next question. Your next question is, I like this one. I think you're the first one that chose this one. Did you know your children's friends?
100%. Again, being self-employed, one of the advantages for me is that I got to plan around my schedule so that we knew all of our son's friends. In fact, when they got to middle school and high school, we were probably too involved, but it's they probably didn't like it. But it's important for, especially for young parents, to know what their kids are doing. Who are they hanging out with? Who are they being influenced by? And I think that's extremely important because there's many roads that they can go down if their influences are not who you want them to hang out with. So we knew all of our kids' friends, and to this very day, we have close relationships with our boys' friends.
Did you by chance, this is a part A, did you also know most of their parents?
Of course, we had the advantage of having the kids go to a private school. And also, I was the baseball coach, I was the basketball coach, I was the soccer coach, I was
Okay.
the mock trial coach.
Okay.
So I knew a lot of the kids' parents through all of my coaching.
Good.
And so no, we it was a pretty tight knit group, both friends and family of the friends, for both Sue and I.
Yep. And again, reason I asked that question, and you just explained it the way it is. You don't know who your kids are hanging out with. You lose. You can lose some control because everybody's household is not the same. Everybody's parents aren't on top of doing their job. And if you got a kid with a real strong personality and he's got bad blood, unfortunately, your kid could follow that kid.
Right.
But if you have them in your sight, even you can make a difference in that kid of maybe what he's not getting from his home because he's got you as an influence.
Right.
Right? Make sense? All right. So the next question is, and you just answered this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Did you attend parent-teacher meetings?
Every single parent-teacher meeting.
Yes.
I don't think that we missed any of them.
And tell us the importance that you found, the importance of attending your children's parent-teacher meetings.
Well, you want to get to know the teachers as well. And obviously and it's a huge problem these days, especially with what's going on in the schools, the violence, and you can't turn your kids over to the teachers and expect that the teacher's going to do it on their own. They need help from the parents. So if there were problems, the teachers could come to us, or the counselors can come, hey, what's going on with Ryan, or what's going on with Sean? I think it's extremely important, which is not what was going on when I was growing up. I don't think I ever remember my mom going to a parent-teacher conference ever, but she was too busy. She was working for the phone company, and we didn't see her till probably 8 o'clock at night.
Wow.
But that's what she had to do as a single parent.
Right. Yeah. I do some humorational speaking in the schools, and the teachers tell me they don't. And when I was growing up, my mom went to all of them. She always went to she found the time, took the time. Their grades, their behavior. that you get to find out that the friend next door that sits next to him is distracting him. Again, it's called involvement in your child's life. So that again, when I offered to do a motivational speaking or motivational for the parents, the teachers, every school assured me they will not show up.
Yeah. Well, you might volunteer. You're familiar with the payback program here in Los
Remember,
Angeles.
I was doing payback,
Right. So
but I'd rather be on my own.
yeah.
I don't want to be a part of anybody's program. You know
Right.
me. But that's, I did it for 6 years before I left here. And when I came back, that's when I decided I want to go on my, I always want to do everything on my own. And the teachers were receptive. I just found a new school that's letting me in
That's
last week.
good.
Yeah.
Good.
So
Good.
it's you pretty much, you ask for it and God provides. The next question is, we're right on time here. Oh, what did you do to encourage success? And in that, I put examples: chores, social skills, educational expectations, develop good relationships. Pick any one or two of those. What
I
did
could
you
pick.
do to encourage success with your boys?
I will pick one that was, I thought, very important.
Okay.
Obviously, we wanted our kids to be motivated and have that drive and desire to go to college. And so when we would go on vacations, we would always pick places where they can go onto campus. And both of my boys are athletes. So we would go to places like Duke or UNC, UCLA, USC, but we would go on campus. We'd try to go when school was in session. So maybe on spring breaks, we would try to take in college games so they could see that environment and get excited about that. So that's one example where the things that we did to get them motivated and successful.
Mhm.
I would also say one of the things that we encourage also, when you're in, whether it's social settings or you're in school, you're going to encounter different type of groups. And you're going to have to deal with different type of people, different type of kids. And it was one of the things that I did, I think, very well when I was growing up. So I got along with everyone.
Mhm.
I'm a real people person. I love being around people, and I can see my boys and how they interact with different groups. So my wife and I certainly encourage that, especially with some of the things that are happening in the news. Football player get kicked off the football team and shoots 3 football players from the University of Virginia. You just don't know. There's so many crazy people out there that, are you going to piss one of them off because you tease them or ridicule them or harass them
Mhm.
in school?
Mhm.
There's no reason to do that.
Right.
You got to get along with all different types of people, and that carries with them throughout their adulthood as well.
Good. And to add on to what you're saying, and again, part of what this show's concept is, unfortunately, every kid that's brought into this world is not given the love that they need, right? If
100%.
your kid is loved, respected, and cared for the most part, it carries on into who they are, right?
You
And
got it.
and, and I have a concept of paying attention to those who unfortunately weren't given the love, attention, and guidance that I was given. They're not bad people. I just need to pay attention to their limitations, to ultimately what turns out to be an unhappy adult,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
And then we're out there in the world with them, and they're angry or they're jealous or they're insecure. It's nothing that we did. We didn't cause that. Our happiness, real quick, I worked when I was driving limos. And when I first started, I watched these drivers and they didn't know me. And I walked into the lounge and they frowned and I could feel this negative energy. And I would just laugh. And I recognized they did not like me. They didn't like that I was so happy.
Mm-hmm.
I said to myself, what the hell with them? So I sat in the car and sweated out all my white shirts. I prefer to be in there than to be in that lounge what I call just the negativities falling off the walls. I that's so important, um, to maybe even say to your child, everyone's not as fortunate as you. Every parent, I don't know, say to them, but to point out, I love you. Your grandma loves you. Your dad loves you. Your sisters and brothers. And unfortunately, everyone is not as fortunate. And have patience with them. And I think it needs to be recognized. I don't know how you do it with young people, but I think it's something that's one of those traits that needs to be, um, emphasized. Emphasized. So,
Absolutely.
so here's your last question is, I like your questions. I like everybody's questions. What do you think is the most important lesson to give a child?
Well, I think that you touched on it is give them love because there's so many kids that are not loved and they go out in this big bad world and they're going to have some challenges. Um, so I think that's probably the biggest one.
Okay, but it's the important lesson. What would you say the lesson? That's the message. That's the concept. What would be what
Okay.
would be the lesson?
Well, I guess the lesson is perhaps treat people the way that you would want to be treated.
Right, right. And again, to piggyback to what I just said, and what my book titles, and I'm not hanging up today without introducing my wonderful books, is to pay attention. I do believe it's the first rule in life. And even as kids, and that's probably my biggest claim to fame. I watched everything. I paid attention to all the adults. I was that kid when my mom and my cousins, they used to spell over me, nosy little girl, right? And I would stand under them, Kay, like this. I am a great speller. I I wanted to know what they were saying. Whatever it took for me to be a better me, um, I paid attention. It's so important. And I don't think just because they're children, and again, I want them, they need to be children. I'd say at least up till 12, 13, 12, okay? And after that, the world is going to change. First of all, they're going to change. Hormonally, they're going to change. Their voices change. Their arms get longer. Their body gets longer. They've got this new person that they've never met before. And then it becomes a different world. Junior high school is not elementary school. Junior high school, middle school is not high school. High school is not college, right? And so these developments of life, this evolution of life is constant. And so to be able to keep up with it, if you will, is it can't be overstated. So let's ask your fun question and let's see what. Oh, this is cute. This is cute for you. Here goes. What personal trait has gotten you in the most trouble, Lane K? Uh-oh, he's stuck. He's sleeping again. Come back to me. Come back. Oh, this is all right.
I didn't hear your fun question.
I know you didn't because you went to sleep on me again. We got to work this stuff out. What personal trait has gotten you in the most trouble?
Oh,
You chose this question, by the way.
yeah, I did. I would say that I get in trouble from my wife when I am too chatty. Like you say, I could talk to the taxi driver, the Uber driver.
Uh-oh. Oh, Dana. Uh-oh. Got a hesitation here, and we're at near the end of the show.
Yeah, that's probably my biggest problem is I'm too chatty.
Okay. Before you got married, what personal trait do you think got you in the most trouble?
Oh, probably a wandering eye.
Oh my God, Mr. K. That's the part of you I don't need to know about.
Right.
Okay. I have taken up your 30 minutes and you're not charging me by the hour. Thank you very much.
It says 2:30 there. You're right on time.
It's a perfectly planned show. You all answer the questions in the perfect format. Needless to say, you can see the pleasure I get in doing the show. You guests give us so much to think about, so much to reflect on. And here's the deal about life. Intrinsically, we're all the same, right? We have the same headaches. I don't care how much money you have. And that's what this show is. It shares commonalities that we as human beings all have. And what I like to say at each show is young people or people who don't plan, which is okay. We've had people that didn't plan. You're not giving birth to a baby, folks. You're giving birth to a human being, right? And I always like to use Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille needs to start giving me some feedback, some money for this. I always like to use Shaquille because he's such a big guy. Shaquille's mother brought him home and never thought she'd be feeding a 6'8" kid at 12 years old, right? And again, as we said earlier in the show, you had some health challenges with your kid. There is a myriad of things that won't be perfect. We don't live in a perfect world. Again, we don't have perfect parents. We don't have perfect anything. But the question is, how do you deal with and take care as best you can of bringing a child into this world and making it a responsible adult so it goes on, gets married and or not, leaves the home and carries on a fruitful life. And would you say that you and your wife have done that?
I think we have done that.
I think you've done that too. I love your Facebook pages and all the things that you guys do together as friends.
Yes.
Yeah, your sons are your best friends, and you can see it through the photos and what you share online. Folks, we have reached that bewitching hour of 30 minutes later. I want to thank you once again for watching Cozy Up and Pay Attention to Parent Edition. Unless God knows something I don't, I will be back next Tuesday at 2:00, bringing you another guest that's going to share her experiences with her children and what she's doing, because she's still raising some, to get her kids to be the best that they can. I like to also end this show with, when you know better, you do better. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for watching Cozy Up and Pay Attention to Parent Edition. Mr. K, I love you. I adore you. I admire you. And I'll see you soon somewhere outside in the world.
I'm sure you will. Thanks, Cozy.
Thank you for your time.
Happy holidays.
You too.